Alright, so let's talk about NFL Pro Era 2025. So far, I played on both Quest 2 and Quest 3. The game runs perfectly fine on both headsets, and I'll make sure to include gameplay from both platforms near the end of the video. And in making this review, I'm going to be honest, I don't know where to start. This year's release brings a lot of mixed emotions because although there is a lot of good in this year's release, as I had lots of fun playing QB1, throwing like there's no tomorrow, and dominating on the side of defense, since 2025 finally adds the ability of playing both sides of the ball with semi-playable defense on certain fixed positions, improved and revised the playstyle of various positions on offense, including doubling the size of the current offensive playbook, more running plays, refined AI play calling, roster overhauls, and this game being the closest thing to experiencing football in the first-person perspective in a medium like VR. Then we move on to the not so good. One thing I noticed is while playing NFL Pro Era 2025 on both Quest 2 and Quest 3, there is a noticeable difference in how the game plays, aside from the better performance on Quest 3 and the better overhead tracking on Quest 2. Interactivity feels leagues better on Quest 2 compared to Quest 3 when using menus. The hands aren't aligned at all with Quest 3's Touch Plus controllers just yet, and selecting plays on your wrist is a battle in itself sometimes. But before I get into the specifics, as I have a whole laundry list of things to talk about, from the various bugs, inconsistencies, and missing features, NFL Pro Era 2025 has now transitioned from an annual yearly game release schedule to a fully live service model. The live service tag means a variety of things. For NFL Pro Era 2025, once you purchase the game, instead of purchasing next year's release, now you'll instead access new content through add-ons / microtransactions. In the case, it's the Defense Edition at $20. In future updates, it'll be required to also play head-to-head multiplayer, get access to updated throwback uniforms, and get updated relevant rosters for the 2024 NFL season. So in order to access any new content, you'll have to upgrade your edition, and this is included in this year's upgrade. Plus, if you ever own the first release of NFL Pro Era 1 or NFL Pro Era 2 like myself, instead you'll get access to the base game with 2025 as they merge into one game, and the devs mentioned doing so to unify the player bases of both games. If this is your first time getting the game, it'll cost you $40 compared to existing owners who get a slight discount who purchased previous editions of the game at $20. But with the new direction, it could mean one of two things. The first being positive, with even more updates post-launch with bug fixes, as the devs don't have a great track record with post-launch support, as NFL Pro Era 1 and 2 were abandoned not long after launch, leaving them incomplete and in a broken state. Granted, the developers Status Pro are a relatively new studio founded by two athletes, or the bad being complacency and turning into a cash cow like Madden. But I will say, with this recent move of combining all versions of the game into one, as segmenting VR player bases when they're already small enough with yearly releases was a bad idea in my opinion. This steers them in the right direction at least. That aside, let's talk about the gameplay. In my first full season playthrough in the single player mode at the hardest difficulty, I went through an entire regular season, got to the Super Bowl, and I might add that I convincingly won by a huge margin. And I had tons of fun playing quarterback for my team, which is the Chicago Bears depressingly, and even though I blew out every team, pause, at the core, this is a glorified quarterback simulator 2 years later still. Though as a football fan, this game is extremely addicting. This game release keeps the leveling system that NFL Pro Era 2 had, called Coach Confidence, which relies on you making the correct plays, and based from allowing a reroll of plays all the way to go for it, allowing you to run any play you want on 4th down, granting you autonomy the better you play throughout the season. So even as you win or lose games, you're progressing towards something. Playing quarterback, you'll be able to choose from the various formations and calls directly on your wrist. You can turn into Mahomes as you lob it straight into the end zone for a touchdown, or Jameis Winston with back-to-back interceptions. There is also a bit of player customization, but nothing crazy. Character models still look slightly cooked, I'm not gonna lie. As you progress into the regular season, you begin to pick out what plays work best for your playstyle. And something that never wears off is looking down the field inside the headset, as the game does include custom stadiums for all 32 NFL teams. Playing in the environments using Quest 3, everything is much noticeably sharper. Every possession, it's always something new, and for me at least, the allure is never lost. And on the other side of the ball, you can turn into the very GOAT Sam Darnold saw when playing on defense. Takes a bit of getting used to, as you have to be within the radius of your opponent, point inward like you're about to poke someone, and they'll have a goldish glow around them highlighting the player you're about to tackle. Bit janky, and they could have chosen a more creative mechanic. As mentioned on Quest 3, it took me a while to get used to. It wasn't super straightforward. The tutorial that tries to teach you does a horrible job explaining what to do. You can tell they pieced it last minute, but once you jot it down, you'll start wreaking havoc and your opponents won't ever score a point ever again. Like, I'm not joking, it's absolutely broken. If you just get super close to the line of scrimmage and just pass rush, the quarterback always almost immediately gets sacked. And most times you can get there before even the play starts. This add-on is a major upgrade to the overall immersion, as back then in previous releases you'll turn into Diddy and gladly watch on the sideline awkwardly or skip the entire sequence within settings. And if you're playing on the hardest difficulty, this feature is a bit pay to win, as if you don't play defense, the enemy AI for some reason 99% of the time scores a touchdown on each possession. I got blown out by 2 teams, pause, and thought I got a skill gap, but once I got the rhythm, I never lost a game ever again. Also worth noting that purchasing the Defense Edition is bugged. So once you purchase it, you'll have the game mode, but once you close the game or power off the headset upon boot, you'll no longer be able to play defense. But the devs are working on a fix. What worked for me so far is clicking purchase every time I start the game, and it's fixed momentarily for the current play session. But I have to repeat the process every time I start up the headset. Odd issue, but a fix is coming. Having started off with what I enjoyed about the game, now let's talk about its issues, and it's a long list, so sit back. As previously mentioned, controller alignment, positioning, and haptic feedback for Quest 3 is still quite off. Even before trying 2025 on Quest 2, things aren't aligned perfectly. You'll misclick on certain play calls on your wrist, and scrolling is slightly off. Fast forward to me playing on Quest 2, all of these issues are magically fixed, as the hand model relative to your controller is aligned perfectly to the input from the player, naturally feels like an extension of your hand. On Quest 3, that isn't the case, and it's a bit off center. The next point is that the single player mode is extremely bare bones even after 2 years. At the start of the game, it goes into a full cutscene of you finally reaching the last stop in your journey, which is getting a Lombardi trophy. Your coach hypes you up, telling you the grit that it takes. Even I was surprised that maybe they upped the budget. Nah, that's where it stops. No more cutscenes. And if you do get to the Super Bowl and end up winning like I did, I kid you not, your coach leaves a voicemail to congratulate you.
Hey, congratulations QB1 on your first Super Bowl win. Man, you were phenomenal out there, and it's been amazing to watch you rise to the occasion.
I mean, even Bill Belichick shows more emotion than this. Before creating this review, I was certain it would include something, and to my disappointment, it was nothing. And that's not the worst part. After you win the Super Bowl, they'll leave you on the sideline watching them present the trophy. And immediately after, it kicked me back into the lobby and the included trophy room to display your various awards. I still don't have the Lombardi. If it's like the previous games, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be dead center. Every time I boot up the game, I'm looking for it like a jump scare. Talking about jump scares, let's talk about the audio. You still can access basic audio settings while in game, and even when you toggle everything on mute, your teammates have voice lines reacting to recent plays like,
"That was a heck of a pass, man. I knew you had a cannon on you."
And they're always on max volume for some reason, even though I muted everything in game. If you're on the defensive side and the AI opponent doing a running play, they'll be facing the completely opposite, even though the handoff animation shows, a different side. And another one is sometimes I'll throw a pass and it'll be a fumble for no reason, even though it touched no one. Some character models are cursed and play with their eyes entirely shut. The bug of the first NFL Pro Era game still remains of choosing a different play than the one your coach picked, and for some reason it'll revert back to the old play, and they still exist. NFL playoff brackets on the TV screens don't display anything. During the end of quarters or displaying game scores, they'll randomly hover above you, and it goes to say this isn't the most polished game. And I could go on and on about the little nitpicks here and there. But moving on to the side-by-side graphical comparison on both Quest 2 and Quest 3, NFL Pro Pro Era 2025 holds up pretty well on both platforms. There isn't much to discuss, so this will be a bit short, as inside both headsets you experience all the improvements on both platforms minus the usual Quest 3 improvements due to the better chipset, allowing devs to improve resolution, therefore improving aliasing, and improve frame timing so the frame rate is noticeably smoother on your eyeballs. There are shadows on character models in both Quest 2 and Quest 3, but similar to Asgard's Wrath 2, it's not a real representation, as the shadows are always super crisp with an exact outline of the character and fixed to the world map. And I did lower the video capture setting to 1080p on Quest 2 instead of the usual 1440p because it chugs along hard. The game isn't optimized for Quest 3 at all yet, it doesn't take full advantage, so there is a lot of performance headroom for the developers to work with if they do end up eventually releasing a Quest 3 upgrade. And all of that to say, NFL Pro Era 2025, to me at least, like I said in the beginning, is a mixed bag. If you're a fan of American football, this is a must-have. Nothing comes close to delivering the thrilling experience of playing quarterback while also doing the shot calling on your favorite team, and now finally being able to play defense. It's one of the most immersive experiences catered to sport fans available on the Quest storefront. The foundation of a decent VR football game is there. Now it's up to Pro Era seizing on the potential. It's worth keeping in mind that the studio is relatively new and founded by two athletes. The game isn't at a point of no return, but it needs a lot of work. Hopefully this is a shift forward and it only improves year over year, because as much as I love the game, I can't overlook the various flaws. And if you already own the previous versions of the game, I say go for the Defense Edition. I think it's a good upgrade, but it's worth considering that the previous installments of the game, it's still the same game at its core. If you like American football, or you're new to VR, or you already purchased previous versions of the game, I say go for it, but it depends on who you are. To end the video, like always, that's my NFL Pro Era 2025 review. Down in the comment section, let me know what your thoughts are. Have you tried the game? Suggest other stuff for me to cover or review. Don't know what the next video should be, but we'll see. Leave a like or dislike down below, and until the next video, see ya.